welcome back to Trailhead Ranger NG. And today we will be starting our new series that is interview questions. So we are going to go over interview questions one by one, and I'll explain them and answer them that what answer you should give in the interview. And also it's like a basic concept overview. You can also consider it like that. So let's start with our first question. First question is, how do you bulkify trigger code for better performance? So this is the most common question asked in interview, and also it can be asked in multiple ways, like how do you bulkify trigger code, or if trigger code should be bulkified or not, and why do we bulkify our trigger code. So first of all, let's understand that what is bulkifying exactly means. So it means that our apex code should be able to handle more than one record at a time. That means it should not only be able to perform for one record or less number of records, but it should be able to handle large number of records or large data set at a time. So when like we execute our batch, suppose we are executing our batch record, so it execute an instant of apex code, but that code, particularly that instance of apex code, should have the capacity to handle multiple records or all the records at a time. And why do we bulkify our trigger code? So it is to optimize our performance of code and to ensure scalability, that it will not defactor or result into failed transaction at any point of time. So how we can bulkify our trigger code, let's go over this. We have our first option as that we should use collections. That means lists, sets, or maps. Instead of having one record or to process one record in a apex code, we should be using lists, sets, or maps, so that it will be able to handle multiple records at once, and it will also result in reduction of DML operations and SQL queries. So yes. Then second, we should avoid our SOQL queries inside loops. Whenever we are using SOQL queries, we should avoid using it in our for loop or any loops in our trigger logic or apex logic. So it will avoid us to hitting governor limits. We should always query the necessary data before entering the loop, and then use collections to filter it. Like we should apply conditions such as that, if this condition is satisfied, then only we are extracting those records, like that. Third way to bulkify our trigger code is handle the trigger context. That means we should be very well aware of all the trigger context variables, that is trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.new map, trigger.old map. We should not use them misproper in wrong way. We should use them appropriately, like whenever is trigger.new is required, we should not use trigger.new map. So it will also help us to achieve the efficiency and better performance in bulkifying our trigger code. Then our next practice to bulkify our trigger code is that using of maps for relationship queries. That is whenever we are querying the related records. For example, if we have an account and we are trying to query the related contact as well, then we should use map properly. So it will help us to bulkify a trigger code, and also it will improve the performance, and it will provide us the opportunity to not use the nested loops, because we also should avoid the maximum use of loops or repetitive use of loops in our code. Next, practices that we should minimize the use of DML operations. So first, that can be avoided by using of collections, and then second, we can combine the similar DML operation into single statement. That is, we can group our insert operations, update, delete, or undelete operations. So it will reduce the database round trips and also help for better performance. Then we should implement our error handling. That means that our code should be able to handle the exceptions, such as null exceptions, or whenever there is an error, it should not result into a failed transaction. We should be able to handle those exceptions. So for that we can use try catch blocks and provide the error messages as well. Then we should test it for bulk data. That is, our whenever our code is ready according to us, we should always test it for bulk scenarios and with large data sets, so we can ensure that it is not impacting our performance and it is a bulkified code. Then next, we should consider all the asynchronous processing. That if we are having a complex operation or requirement, then we should try to use asynchronous method, such as batch apex, queueable, or even schedule apex if it is required. So we can avoid hitting the governor limits or synchronous limits as well. Then next is optimize code logic. We should always review our trigger logic, and we should look for opportunities that whenever we can reduce the complexity of our code, we should reduce it, such as by avoiding um, maximum DML operations, loops, nested loops. So we can have the improve we can improve its readability, and it should be maintainable. That is, if some other user or some other coder is reviewing or you're reading your code, it should be easy enough for them to understand that what has been written. And then last is that monitor and refactor. That is, you should regularly monitor the performance of your trigger code and refactor in case if there is anything you need to work upon, or if there are any new changes you should be implying to improve the performance or remove your previous bottlenecks, so that can improve your performance and scalability of trigger code. So that's how we can improve the performance of our trigger and bulkify the trigger code. And that's how you can answer your in your interview, that how do you bulkify your trigger code and what is the bulkifying your trigger code exactly means. Thank you. If you like the video, please like it, subscribe the channel, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. And thank you.